Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Molecular Mysteries. Hope everyone is doing fine out there. So, without any further delay, let's get into the class. Hello, good morning, students. Welcome back to my class, Molecular Mysteries. So, in the class, we have already discussed about the structure of heart, how the heart sounds lumped up. Okay, in this class, I want to talk about the arterial system of your heart, like what you call as the circulatory system. Okay, so what is circulatory system? So, for that, you know that heart plays an important role for the circulatory system. You have got two different type of blood vessels in your body, namely arteries and veins, right? Right. So, in this class, I want to talk about the systemic artery and the pulmonary artery. What are arteries? Arteries are the blood vessels that supplies the oxygenated blood from heart to the other body parts. So, you're all well aware of it. In the last class itself, I have covered, right? So, this particular artery called the systemic artery, which contains the oxygenated blood, has to get supplied to all other body parts, right? So this systemic artery, it starts with the arteries and ends with the capillaries, because each and every organ has to get that particular oxygen, nutrients and hormones for their effective function, right? Then only the person is said to be alive. So in this class, let's talk about the systemic artery and about the arteries. Arteries walls are thick and muscular, okay, and the arteries are mainly made up of three different important parts like tunica externa, tunica interna, and the tunica media. These three are the important parts of your arteries, how the arteries are made of. Okay, and these are very thick and muscular, as you said. Okay, and these arteries, now let's start about, as you are all aware about the structure of heart. This systemic artery arises from the left ventricle, because ventricle contains the oxygenated blood, right, which is coming from the lungs. Okay, this particular systemic artery now arises from your left ventricle, and it immediately, comes out of your heart and gets separated as the coronary artery and the carotid artery. So, this coronary artery are the arteries that supply blood to the muscles of your heart for your effective functioning of your heart. Okay, and the carotid arteries is again divided into two, right? They are actually a pair of carotid arteries, and these pair of carotid arteries are again divided into right carotid artery and the left carotid artery. Okay, and this each left and right carotid arteries are again bifurcated into the external carotid artery and internal carotid artery. Okay, this is all the thing that I'm giving you in brief. I will also attach the important YouTube sites for you to understand it with diagram. Okay, see, now let's see the video of this. See, I told you systemic arteries are divided into coronary arteries, carotid artery, and again it has further bifurcation also. In the coming slides, I will let you know. This carotid artery is again divided into external, internal for each left and side part of your body. Okay, the left and right is again divided into the external and internal carotid artery. This particular external carotid artery supplies blood to the tongue, your teeth, your salivary glands, your back of your head, and all. Okay, it supplies blood to the this oral cavity and the buccal cavity of your body, and the internal, all I say, in the internal carotid artery would supply blood to the head. Okay, that is how, in brief, I want to tell you about the carotid arteries that supplies the blood. Okay, and now let's see the further division of your systemic artery. So this I'll talk in the last. This pulmonary is again another important arch. I'll talk in the last slide. Okay, and now see. So, coronary and carotid. Now let's go for the systemic artery. See, this systemic artery mainly consists of, it is again, I told you, left carotid artery, right carotid artery, and left and right subclavian artery. So in the next slides I talk about what subclavian arteries pump the blood to where which parts are reaching these arteries, and how the organs are getting those blood. Okay, we'll see in the next slide. So I told you these carotid arteries are again divided into left carotid and the right carotid, right? And I told you the left and right each is divided into internal carotid artery, external, the same way internal carotid artery and the external carotid artery. So these internal carotid arteries are meant for the supply of blood to the all the parts of your brain. Okay, and the external are meant for your salivary glands to your tongue to your what you say, the jaw, to the teeth. Okay, even at the back of your neck, right? So these are all the things done by your internal carotid artery. Okay, so now let's talk about the left and right subclavian arteries. So this is the mechanized form of your artery system, where this subclavian is again divided into left and right. Okay, now let's talk about the right subclavian artery. Okay, the right subclavian artery is again divided into the vertebral artery, internal memory artery, and your brachial artery. See, this is what you're talking about the right subclavian artery. I told you the systemic arch first of all enters out, comes out of the heart, dividing into coronary and carotid, and again into right and left subclavian. Okay, this particular right subclavian would enter into the vertebral artery, which supplies blood to a vertebral column, and it enters into the internal memory artery. So you know that the name itself says it goes for the memory glands, and also diaphragm, which separates from respiratory system and your other systems in your body, right? So it also supplies blood to your diaphragm, and brachial artery, which supplies blood to the right forelimbs, like limbs, right? So these are the right subclavian arteries, the division of your right subclavian artery. So let's go for your left subclavian artery, and this is even more, mechanized. Like it's completely, the whole system is so well organized. So now let's talk about the left subclavian artery. This subclavian artery is again divided into vertebral, internal memory, and brachial. And apart from that, this left subclavian artery also give rise to other important arteries. So what are they? So let's get to know it. So this left subclavian artery is again divided into intercostal arteries, celiac artery, renal artery, and gonadial artery. Okay, these intercostal arteries supply blood to the intercostal muscles. Like it would be around 5 to 7 pairs of your intercostal arteries supplying to your muscles. Here are the intercostal arteries present. Okay, and the other important thing is the celiac artery. So the celiac artery supplies blood to the hepatic artery. It means it supplies blood to the liver, and the lineogastric artery, which supplies blood to your stomach and the spleen. Okay, this supplies blood to the stomach and spleen, and hepatic artery supplies blood to the liver. So, celiac artery is the artery that divides into capillaries for your production. And you are well aware that renal arteries supply blood to your kidneys, right? And gonadial arteries. So, for that matter, in humans, these gonadial arteries supply blood to the what you call the spermatic arteries, through which the sperms have been getting those blood for your circulation. In the same way, in females, these gonadal arteries are called as ovarian arteries, which supply blood to the ovaries, like in the uterus, right? So that is how you have been dividing this gonadial arteries. So these all come under the left subclavian artery. And another important part of your left subclavian artery is, I will tell you, mesenteric artery and the anterior mesenteric artery and posterior mesenteric artery, right? So this left subclavian artery further divides into anterior mesenteric artery, posterior mesenteric artery, and the iliac artery. Okay, what does anterior mesenteric artery do? This anterior mesenteric artery supplies blood to the ileum, duodenum, and pancreas. These all come under the part of your intestine. Okay, the small intestine, it's again divide, large intestine, small intestine, you are all divided into the different parts like ileum, colon, rectum. These are all the intestinal part. So this left subclavian artery would supply blood to anterior mesenteric artery and the posterior mesenteric artery, right? So like colon, rectum, pancreas, duodenum, and ileon. Okay, anyway, in the next classes I will also talk about the parts of your digestive system in detail. In there you will come under, they will come across this ileum, duodenum, and where does the absorption of food items undergo in the intestine. Okay, and let's go for the iliac artery. This iliac artery will supply blood to the uterine muscles, uterus, vesicular artery, which supplies blood to the urinary bladder, and all. Okay, so this is a brief note of your arterial system, where it supplies blood to all other body parts from your heart. Okay, next go for so this is the in brief note of your left subclavian artery. Now, let's go for the important part. I want to tell you about the pulm. See, this is a structure where I want to talk to you. This red contains the oxygenated blood which is supplied to the other body parts. This is what you call the arterial system, and this particular blue color is called the venous system, which collects the blood, right? So it goes for the lungs for your purification, that you all know. Okay, these are the RBC which passes. Okay, now apart from this, you have three important structures called femoral artery, carotid artery. I already told you, right? So this is the carotid artery. I told you it supplies blood to your uh, head. So that is why you can observe that this carotid artery is visible here. Like if you see in movies we have been coming across, we cut that the person will die because that is the main important artery that supplies blood to your brain. So if that is made, it is made cut in it, there is no proper oxygen going into your brain, and thus the person will lead to death because of the no supply blood, no oxygen supply to your brain. So that is the main important carotid artery that runs towards your neck and towards your brain. Okay, and femoral artery, the femoral artery is the artery which supplies blood to your femur. Femur is the thigh bone, right? So this is high. This is the artery of thigh bone that supplies blood to your femoral artery. And other important artery is the artery that supplies blood to your shoulders. So okay, this is also an important artery that I want to give you the diagram with. Okay. So hope I am clear with the structure and in detail of your arterial system. In the next class, I'll talk about the venous system, how the veins would collect the blood and goes for your thing. Okay. And I forgot to tell you about the pulmonary arch. See, yeah, pulmonary arch is the thing that arises from your right ventricle, right? Because it contains the deoxygenated blood and it needs to get oxygenated, right? So for that, it has to enter into your lungs. So you have two pulmonary arches that enters into your lungs for your oxygenation. That is how you will get the oxygenated blood from your lungs. So because if you are not aware of how the oxygenated and deoxygenated happen, you can refer to my respiration classes where I told about the exchange of gases happening in your lungs, how the alveoli take oxygen and giving out the CO2, and how the oxygen and CO2 are getting converted, how the exchange of gases is happening in alveoli. I'll also give you in the last class. Please go through it. So see you in the next class with venous system, and hope you are all following my channel regularly, and thank you and have a
See you in
nice
the
day.
next class. Until then, stay positive, stay healthy, and be kind to everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.